Good morning. I'm honored to be here this morning among family, friends, and people I consider to be heroes. While May is Law Enforcement Memorial Month, and this is a memorial service, I want to take a moment to remember those officers that have made the ultimate sacrifice for all of us. Even though these officers continue to forge the path ahead and are certain to be in a better place today because of their sacrifice, they are also here with us today. They are here in our thoughts, our hearts, and our prayers. Their sacrifice and service continues, as it is incumbent upon all of us to evaluate the scenarios they succumb to and learn from them. It is in this way that our fellow officers, friends, and heroes will go on serving forever. As important as it is to remember our fallen brothers and sisters, it is my ultimate objective today to honor those officers that have sacrificed, survived, and in many cases, returned to duty to continue to protect and serve. Today, I'd like to share one of those stories with you, and I'll first set the stage. Taylor County, Wisconsin, September 8, 2013, during the late afternoon hours. As normal on a Sunday afternoon, there were 2 units on duty. The Taylor County Sheriff's Office is a relatively small agency close knit, easily considered a medium-sized family. In fact, the 2 officers on patrol this particular Sunday are best friends, one being best man at the other's wedding earlier that same year. The following is a brief synopsis of what happened that afternoon. Deputy Sheriff Chad Kowalczyk was on duty September 8, 2013, and was assigned to conduct follow-up investigation in the town of Westboro with regard to a violation of a court-ordered injunction. When Deputy Kowalczyk made contact with the suspect, he found him to be distraught and highly agitated to the point that he was threatening to take his own life. Deputy Kowalczyk spent several minutes attempting to negotiate with this individual and bring the extremely stressful situation to a peaceful conclusion, all while continuing to perform his law enforcement function and maintain a tactically sound position. Ultimately, this irate individual grabbed a .22 caliber rifle located outside of view and began firing through the storm door of the residence directly at Deputy Kowalczyk. Deputy Kowalczyk reacted appropriately and retreated to a place of cover with the intent to maintain as secure a perimeter as possible, protect the citizens in the area, as well as the suspect, who just shot at him several times. Deputy Kowalczyk was aware that other law enforcement officers were headed to the area, and he was unable to reach them by portable radio. He also knew that they were unaware that shots had been fired and would be driving into a firefight without knowing it. Deputy Kowalczyk assessed the area and made a conscious decision to leave his position of protection in order to reach his squad car and use the mobile radio. He moved rapidly and tactfully as possible, but once again came under fire. Deputy Kowalczyk was struck at least 2 times by the gunfire of his assailant. Even though he was severely injured, he accessed his squad radio and notified his brother law enforcement officers that they were driving into harm's way. Once in the squad car, Deputy Kowalczyk moved to a place where he could still see the location of the suspect and took up a tactical position of observation while he waited for further assistance to arrive. He stayed in this position of observation, protecting the citizens of Taylor County until such time that he could be properly relieved and transported to a medical facility for treatment. Certainly, Deputy Sheriff Chad Kowalczyk acted with ultimate bravery and deep concern for his fellow officers and the citizens of Taylor County. This was done in such a manner as to bring credit to himself and the profession of law enforcement in general. Ultimately, the Taylor County Board of Supervisors unanimously passed a resolution honoring Deputy Sheriff Kowalczyk's professionalism, bravery, and adherence to the law enforcement code of ethics. during this incident that took place in the town of Westboro on September 8th, 2013. I just shared with you a sheriff's second worst nightmare. As it turns out, it is also one of those lasting memories for me that makes me realize we will survive largely because of the dedication of people like those working at the Taylor County Sheriff's Office, along with the approximately 90 other law enforcement professionals that screamed to Taylor County that night and ultimately diffused a situation that easily could have resulted in further bloodshed. The immediate and complete response of law enforcement from jurisdictions all over northern Wisconsin was unbelievable. The professionalism, dedication, and total respect for our profession leaves me in awe still today. This suspect, who clearly had shown a total disregard for human life, was ultimately taken into custody without injury to him or additional officers. Officer Kowalczyk underwent surgery that same night. By 10 a.m. the next morning, I was talking with Chad, who simply asked me, whatever did happen to the guy who did this? No hatred, no vengeance, just a dedicated officer wondering how the situation he dealt with had turned out. Officer Kowalczyk worked hard, committed himself, and returned to duty in early 2014. Approximately 3 weeks later, he responded to a serious gun-related call into the city of Medford. As a result of exemplary service, I was again able to hang another medal on his chest, along with seven fellow officers. Clearly, the scenario I have just relayed to you is one that any law enforcement officer can relate to and appreciate. We can only imagine how many times each of us have been in a similar situation, and either by training, luck, or more accurately, God's will, walked away from it without injury. In many cases, we simply do not know how lucky we've been. Today we are here to memorialize officers who have blazed the trail ahead of us. I'm asking that we celebrate those who have survived and still serve. Shortly after the incident involving Chad's injury, there was an editorial in our local paper, the Star News. I want to share this with you at this time. Quote, thanks to all heroes who keep the community safe. What makes someone a hero? Sometimes it is hitting the ball really hard or being able to convert on fourth down to keep a touchdown drive alive, or driving really fast while making left turns that gains someone the title of hero. Sometimes heroes are just people doing their job. Deputy Chad Kowalczyk is a hero, and the people of Taylor County are lucky to have him and others like him keeping our streets and community safe. On Sunday evening, Kowalczyk was sent to enforce an injunction against a man who faces felony charges for physically abusing his ex-girlfriend. He was met with gunfire. His bulletproof vest likely saved his life, but body armor only goes so far, and he suffered a gunshot wound to his lower stomach. Kowalczyk is not a hero because he got shot. Kowalczyk is a hero because he and every other member of the law enforcement community gets up every day with the knowledge that today could be the day there's a bullet with their name on it. Regardless of what uniforms they wear, or whether they are called deputies, police, wardens, or troopers, law enforcement personnel take a risk every day they start their shift. It is a risk which is all too familiar for their family and loved ones. It could have been any officer in Kowalczyk's position Sunday night. One wonders what the outcome would have been had he not had advanced tactical training by being a member of the county's SWAT unit. Even then, it only takes an unlucky hit to bring someone down. There is no routine day at the office when it comes to law enforcement. Taylor County is lucky. As crime goes, it is statistically still a safe place to live and work. An officer being shot is an aberration. The people here are generally law-abiding and hardworking, and the bulk of criminal activity is related to people making poor judgments. Any longtime resident can likely name every murder, or other crime that has taken, major crime that has taken place in the last 20 years. Let us hope the injuries suffered by Deputy Kowalczyk are not the sign of worse things to come, as young people who are being done video game violence exercise poor judgment and forget the world does not have a reset button. One of the worst things a community can hear is that one of its law enforcement officers has been shot. With word that Kowalczyk is recovering from his wound and the man believed to be responsible behind bars awaiting charges, the people in the community are breathing a sigh of relief. Before we go back to our normal lives and our normal worries, each of us owes Kowalczyk and all the men and women who serve and protect a heartfelt thank you for being heroes every day. End quote. Today, as I conclude my brief remarks, please join me in honoring the names of those officers memorialized on the National Law Enforcement Memorial Wall. Join me in celebrating that no new names from Wisconsin show up on that wall as a result of the service-related incidents in 2013. Please also join me in celebrating our profession, and particularly the men and women that serve in every jurisdiction, just as they do in Taylor County. In closing, I would simply like to remind you all to stay safe and God bless. Thank you.